Mike has a decision to make. His landlord just told him the building is for sale. The asking price is $300,000. Mike has $30,000 saved. His first thought, I can't afford that. His second thought, maybe I should just keep saving. But here's what Mike doesn't realize yet. While he waits, prices keep moving. The building he can't afford today might cost $340,000 in 3 years. And his $30,000 sitting in a savings account? It's quietly losing ground to inflation. We talked about that in our last video. Money sitting still doesn't stay still. So what if the answer isn't to save more? What if the answer is to understand how money actually moves and use that knowledge to make it work for you? Welcome to How Systems Work, where we break down the hidden systems shaping your everyday life in clear and simple terms. So let's talk about something most of us were taught growing up. Debt is bad. If you don't have the money, don't buy it. Save up. Pay cash. Stay out of debt. And honestly, that's not wrong advice across the board. Credit card balances that grow every month, that's a problem. Borrowing money to buy things that go down in value, things you consume, things you don't need, that's a problem too. But here's where it gets interesting. The people building serious wealth, they borrow money, a lot of it. Businesses borrow to expand. Real estate investors borrow to buy properties. Even governments borrow to fund roads, schools, and infrastructure. So why does borrowing make some people richer while it makes others struggle? The answer isn't the borrowing itself. It's what the money is used for. And that one distinction, what the money is attached to, is the most important financial concept most people never learn in school. That's exactly what we're going to break down today. Remember what we talked about in our last video. When a bank approves a loan, it doesn't go into a vault and grab cash. It types numbers into a computer. And just like that, new money exists. That's how the system works. And here's the part most people miss. When Mike borrows that money, he's not just getting access to cash. He's getting access to time. Think about it this way. Imagine Mike wants to buy that $300,000 building. If he saves $1,000 a month, it takes him 25 years to get there. 25 years. But the building isn't going to wait 25 years. Prices move. Inflation moves. The world moves. Now imagine Mike uses his $30,000 as a down payment. He borrows the rest. He controls a $300,000 asset, today. Not in 25 years, today. That's what leverage means. Using a smaller amount of your own money to control something much larger. And the math can be striking. If that building rises in value by just 10%, it's now worth $330,000. Mike's $30,000 down payment just earned him $30,000 in equity. That's a 100% return on his initial investment. Not because the building doubled, because he was leveraged. That's not magic. That's math. And it's the same math that businesses, investors, and banks use every single day. So let's put this into real terms with two people making very different decisions. Meet Mike and his neighbor Dave. Same neighborhood, same income, same credit score. Both borrow $25,000. Mike uses his loan to buy a brand new car. It's sharp. It's comfortable. He feels good driving it. And the moment he drives it off the lot, it's already worth less than he paid for it. Here's a number worth knowing. The average new car loses somewhere between 20 and 30% of its value in the first 2 years alone. By the time most cars hit the 5-year mark, they've lost more than half their original purchase price. So Mike is making monthly payments, with interest, on something that is shrinking in value every single day. By the time Mike pays off his $25,000 loan, the car might be worth $10,000 or less. He paid $25,000 plus interest. Call it $29,000 or $30,000 total by the time it's done. For something worth less than a third of what he paid. That is debt working directly against you. Now Dave. Dave uses his $25,000 as a down payment on a small rental property. He borrows the rest from the bank. His tenant pays rent every month. That rent covers Dave's loan payment, or most of it. And slowly, something starts to happen. The property generates income, and over time, the property increases in value. Dave isn't just paying off a loan, he's building an asset. The property is working for him while he sleeps. Same debt, completely different outcome. The difference isn't the loan, it's what the loan is attached to. One purchase creates value, the other consumes it. Now here's the part that changes how you see everything. Let's go back to Mike. He decided to wait, to save, to be careful. And that feels responsible. It feels like the right move.
But remember what we know about inflation. Prices don't wait. And saving money in a low-interest account while inflation runs at 3, 4, or 5% isn't actually saving. It's slowly losing purchasing power. The dollars you have today will buy less tomorrow. That's not a theory. That's how the monetary system works. While Mike saves, the building he wants keeps getting more expensive. While his cash sits quietly in his account, Dave has already bought that rental property. Dave's tenant has been paying down his loan every month. The property has likely appreciated in value. Dave isn't waiting for the right moment. He is already in the game. Here's how the math looks in practice. Dave bought his property for $300,000 3 years ago. Let's say it's gone up in value by just a conservative 10%. That property is now worth $330,000. Dave didn't just preserve his money. He grew it. He used the system the way the system was designed to be used. Assets, real estate, businesses, income-producing investments ride inflation. They tend to grow alongside rising prices. Cash fights inflation, and cash usually loses. Borrowing isn't just about getting something you can't afford today. Done right, it's about getting somewhere faster than time and inflation would otherwise allow. Now let's step back and look at the bigger picture. Because this isn't just Mike's story. This is how the entire economic system operates. Small business owners borrow to hire staff and buy equipment. They use debt to create something bigger than they could have built alone. Large corporations borrow to build factories, enter new markets, and fund research. Real estate developers borrow to build entire neighborhoods, and the rental income from those properties services the debt while the assets appreciate. Even governments borrow to build the roads, bridges, and public infrastructure that make economic activity possible in the first place. This is worth sitting with for a moment. Virtually every institution that creates lasting value, from a family-owned restaurant to a Fortune 500 company, uses borrowed money as a tool, not as a last resort, as a strategy. The key distinction is always the same. They borrow with a purpose. They ask one question before signing anything. Will this money make me more than it costs me? If the cost of borrowing is 6% interest and the return on the investment is 12%, that gap is profit. That gap is wealth creation. The debt isn't a burden in that case. It's the engine. But if the cost of borrowing is 20% on a credit card and the thing you're buying immediately loses value, there is no gap. There is only loss. Month after month, compounding in the wrong direction. Borrowing is not a sign of weakness. It is a tool. And like any tool, it can build something extraordinary or cause serious damage, depending entirely on how it's used. So here's what we want you to take away from today. The old rule, debt is bad, avoid it at all costs, was never really about debt. It was about bad debt. Debt attached to things that lose value. Debt used to fund a lifestyle you haven't earned yet. Debt that costs more than it produces. That kind of borrowing does real damage, and the warning against it is worth keeping. But there is another kind of debt. Debt that is strategic. Debt that is patient. Debt attached to assets that work, appreciate, and generate income over time. When used wisely, borrowing is one of the most powerful levers in the financial system. The wealthy don't avoid it. They master it. The question worth asking yourself, whether you're 22 or 52, is not whether to borrow. It's whether the thing you're borrowing for will be worth more than it costs. If the answer is yes, you're not taking on debt.
You're making an investment, and investing wisely is one of the most important things you can do, not just for yourself, but for the people who depend on you. Thanks for watching How Systems Work, where we break down the hidden systems shaping your everyday life in clear and simple terms. If this video changed how you see borrowing, please subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and tell us in the comments, is debt working for you or against you? We'll see you in the next breakdown.